Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night around the world, wherever you may be. We're back on Route 66 in lovely, warm Kingman, Arizona. A stop for travelers on the Beale Wagon Road and later the old trails and then, of course, the railroad. And after 1926, Route 66. Town that was on the old Mother Road since its inception with multiple alignments, including this big, wide alignment going through downtown called Andy Devine Avenue now. But it's not just a historical, original Route 66 town. It's got a special place in my heart and in the hearts of all Route 66 travelers because it's one of the towns shouted out in that old Bobby Troop song, Get Your Kicks on Route 66, later covered by Chuck Berry. Although I think he called Kingman Kingsman, but we'll let that slide. I love this old 1882 railroad town. I love this fun pick, this drive-through Route 66 shield they added here pretty recently. And if you think it looks impressive by day, you should see it all lit up in its neon glory at night. When you come from California like me, it's the first kind of sizable, real old school Route 66 town. And if you are traveling west to east, there is no better place to start your Arizona Route 66 journey than this, the Powerhouse, which was originally exactly what it sounded like, the old Kingman Powerhouse, now converted into the best Route 66 museum in these here parts. And the first Route 66 museum I'm stepping foot in 2026, which is the centennial, the 100-year anniversary of the Mother Road and of all the numbered U.S. highways that really started to connect the country, the precursor to the interstate system. It's crazy that it's only been 100 years, which is nothing in historical terms, and yet we take all these highways and byways and pavement for granted. Man, our great-great-grandparents could have never seen it coming. And just go in for a real quick look. Obviously, if you've been watching Randomland for a while in our Route 66 videos, you'll know we've been here many times before, so no need to go over it again in detail. At least on this particular trip, suffice to say, it is an amazing Route 66 museum, a lot of Mojave Desert history here. In fact, if you pay the $10 admission and come in to look at the artifacts from the Harvey house, which is what these are, or the old covered wagon diorama, which I notice is missing its figures, it's missing its little mannequin people, oh no! Maybe the pioneer family's on their lunch break. You actually get free admission to the Mojave Museum, which is located just about a block away from here. So an absolutely amazing 1-2 punch of Route 66 artifacts, Native American history. Dude, I've noticed all the mannequins are missing from this museum, but look what they've added in the old Studebaker. Look at these guys moving right along. If you know very little about Route 66 and you're ever traveling through Kingman on your way to the Grand Canyon, stop here for sure. It will give you an amazing insight into what makes the Mother Road so special. And boy, they've really cleaned this place up. There's a whole bunch of fun pick opportunities in here now, which is always fun for the whole family. I love this little mock-up. They've got an old Harvey House hotel, railroad hotels. They've got the Angel's Barber Shop from Seligman, the old trading post, and the old filling station. Then downstairs, look at this, they've lit this all up. They got exhibits on the Powerhouse itself. I don't remember this ever being open before. You can really see the bones of the operation down here. Pretty incredible. And then more artifacts, a little theater down here, and then the final room, which is a whole electric vehicle museum in and of itself. Pretty weird. Anyway, I'm gonna exit through the gift shop, which by the way is pretty darn extensive, and head back outside, because although on long Route 66 trips, I like to spend a lot of time in each town, gotta breeze through Kingman pretty quickly today, because Kingman is not my final destination. I've done a couple of series traveling Route 66 end to end, both by myself and with my son. And if everything goes according to plan this year, I'll be doing another end-to-end series, God willing. But I'm on a particular mission this week, just a real quick turn and burn. I'm headed towards the Jackrabbit Trading Post in eastern Arizona, and look at this. Side note, Mr. D's over there, some of the best root beer in the world. The D, I believe, is for the Dutton family, who has owned car dealerships and filling stations and all kinds of stuff in Kingman going way back to the heyday, the golden era of Route 66. And look at this next door. There's the old Dutton automobile dealership, Dunton Motors, where they still sell old classic cars. But look at this. This is new. They've now opened a Mr. D's gift shop in the side of the Dunton Motors dealership building. Now they're still clearly collecting and selling old classic cars out here at Dunton Motors, established 1946, by the way. But yeah, the more modern, post-war looking showroom is all Mr. D's gift shop. But look at this, you can now wander around the classic cars you could only see through the windows while you look for some nifty gifties. Dude, that is amazing. I have never been in this room before, but I've been looking at it through the windows out here, for years and years and years. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even aware that there was this whole separate room in here. Oh, look at that Shelby GT. What is that, 1968? Somebody informed me. Dude, this is pretty darn cool. I mean, the Powerhouse has a pretty big gift shop, so they've got some stiff competition, but they don't have that GT in the Powerhouse. Oh, never mind on the comments. I've got it right here. 1968 Shelby GT Cobra. Dude, I love Kingman. I love every town on Route 66, I feel like. Some are more humble in their tourist offerings, but Kingman has got it all. It's got museums, motels, hotels, restaurants, classic cars, and even movie stars. But I'm getting ahead of myself just a little. Look at this right across from the Powerhouse. You have Locomotive Park, a nod to Kingman's rich railroad history. And then if you cross the street back over to the Powerhouse, look at this. There's even a little Route 66 dog park now with its own little pooch-sized walk-through Route 66 shield. Now, where was I? Oh yes, movie stars. You may recall that I just told you this portion of Route 66 is known as Andy Devine Avenue. Now, originally, I believe Route 66 went right through downtown Kingman, a block up. I could be wrong about that. There's so many historic realignments of Route 66 through every town, it's hard to keep track of them all. But if my memory serves, when Route 66 needed to be widened, they had plenty of space here alongside the railroad tracks, cutting right down here through the oldest part of Kingman, Arizona. And in fact, look at this. They still have one of the historic train depots down here, and look at this, a train is on the way. See, look at that. Kingman is still very much a railroad town out here. You got hundreds, I feel like, of these BNSF trains coming through here every day. Tons of trucks on the highway. It's still a very busy place, even though the interstate is just a hop, skip, and a jump away these days. I believe you still can actually board an Amtrak train from this station. Look at this. Here's a miners mineral monument next to the railroad station. Just kind of a nod to the prospecting past, because of course tons of miners, prospectors, fortune seekers would come out this way to the desert, especially once the railroad went in, but even earlier on the Beale Wagon Road. Check this out. Here's a place I've never been inside of, and I'm not going to change that today because it's closed, but there's a Kingman Railroad Museum right here in the old depot. I believe there's a bunch of model trains in there and all kinds of stuff, but I don't know for sure. I've never been inside. Oh, look at that. They got Old Town Vape across the street. That's handy. Handy. What does that remind me of? Oh, yes, Andy Devine Avenue over here. Speaking of movie stars, right across the street, actually facing the railroad tracks, is the ancient and venerable Hotel Beale. Construction, I believe, started in 1899 after an earlier wooden hotel burned to the ground and was finished in either 1899 or 1900, right at the turn of the last century. So you're talking pre-automobiles, right? When the train tracks were the main way in and out of this place. Well, in 1906, the Beale was purchased by a guy named Tom Devine, the father of Andy Devine, for whom this road is now named. And if you don't know who Andy Devine is, have you ever seen the classic movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance? If not, you should watch it. One of the greatest Westerns ever. Directed by John Ford, starring Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne. Well, Andy Devine played the marshal in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the cowardly marshal. He also did the voice of Friar Tuck in the Disney movie Robin Hood. He had that old kind of shaky voice. Hey, I can't really do a good Andy Devine impersonation, but if you know the voice, man, you hear it everywhere. Anyway, Andy Devine actually grew up in the hotel, which was full of all kinds of ladies of the evening and gamblers and visitors, presidents, countrymen, horse thieves, clergy, I don't know. It was the premier hotel here in Kingman, Arizona until 1909, when John Thompson and John Mulligan opened up a competitor, the first 3-story building in Kingman, the Brunswick Hotel, pretty much right next door. You can see the Brunswick is still standing. It was considered very modern and very high-end, the first modern hotel in the area with brass bedsteads and telephones, eventually electric power. How about that? Well, Thompson and Mulligan actually split their partnership and then physically split the hotel into 2 separate hotels These days it's been rejoined as one building. It's in much better shape than the Beale. Look at that, it's got modern windows on it. Looks like there's some businesses open on the ground floor. They really cleaned this place up. Of course, with the rise of even more automotive traffic and the invention of the auto court and the motel, the Hotel Beale declined pretty rapidly after the 1930s. Supposedly had very famous guests like I was talking about, including Amelia Earhart, Buster Keaton. People like that stayed in the Hotel Beale. But it didn't last too long, right? Other purpose-built motor hotels took the mantle, and it's in sorry shape today. Although look at that, the Hotel Brunswick is looking pretty good. I hope they do a little restoration on the Hotel Beale at some point, because it's definitely one of the most famous landmarks in town. Look at all the storefronts over there. Lots of commercial opportunity. Then look at this sandwich between. You got the Sportsman's Club, the old saloon there, and the H11 building, circa 1906. And then the Old Trails Garage, which actually originally opened around about 1914, one of the earliest automotive dealerships and garages in town, right here on Old Route 66 / Andy Devine Avenue. Obviously 1914, this is about 12 years before this became Route 66. So another pretty important place, pretty important strip of buildings right here against the railroad tracks. But speaking of cleaning this place up, it's behind it in old downtown Kingman that never really got a lot of love from Route 66 travelers in the last few decades. It was really more of a place for townies, but as you can see by all the new sidewalks and metal trash cans and the new paint job on some of these buildings, they've done an incredible amount of work lately, turning downtown Kingman into a premier destination. And trust me, at night, man, the Grand Canyon Brewery right here, the Kingman Club, this whole street just fills up with people. I've always loved this sign right here for the Kingman Club. Look at that old neon sign. It's now part of the Grand Canyon Brewing and Distillery that I just mentioned a second ago. But I love the way that that has been preserved. Look at this, you got Connie's Quilters Hideaway right here. You got a whole bunch of stores. I love the layers of like old railroad era buildings and then old automotive era buildings. Kingman really boomed during World War II because the Kingman Airfield out here. And so it was a growing place. A lot of the soldiers and airmen moved out here to the desert after World War II. They liked the cut of its jib. So one of the things that's less talked about than the old Western into the 1920s and 30s, earliest Route 66 era, is the mid-century modern era. But you find tons and tons of mid-century buildings in Kingman, as well as the classic old Western buildings that just seem to be very thickly planted down here in the heart of historic Kingman, Arizona. Look at that old garage right there. That is cool. Look at this brand new Ironside Cycles building. You got the new brewery. They're cleaning up downtown. Hey, look at this. There's a picture of Andy Devine right there. Yep, they've really been doing a lot of work out here. I've noticed a bunch of historical signs, like this one in front of that absolutely beautiful Art Deco building. I love stuff like this, because I love exploring old downtowns on foot and learning from signs, if there are such a thing, rather than sort of looking things up. I find that whenever I pull out my cell phone, you know, it kind of interrupts the whole experience. But yeah, this was originally a JCPenney store, apparently. They also have a very Art Deco Masonic temple up the street on your left, bunch of buildings down here, and I've heard that they might even start doing Kingman Historic County Jail tours again up the street near the courthouse down there, which would certainly add to the area's attractions. I know they do them by appointment at the moment, but it'd be cool if they had regular hours at some point. Look at this building right here, perhaps an old 5 and dime. Usually if you see that red tile, that's what that means. But yeah, tons of historic buildings around every corner. And like I say, this was kind of neglected by Route 66 travelers who would just go by on Andy Devine Avenue, cruise out to Hackberry, cruise out to the Grand Canyon, and totally miss all the stuff downtown Kingman has to offer. But I'm glad to see that's very much changing. I'm looking forward to spending more time here in Kingman, and I'm very tempted to just keep walking around looking at all the history. But like I say, I've got a mission to hit up the Jack Rabbit trading post this week. I'm only supposed to be taking a couple of days away from home. By the way, it's hard to see, but there is a full-on Gilman tiki in there. A creature from the Black Lagoon tiki totem, and look at this, I can never get away from Disney no matter how far I go. So I've already overstayed my allotted time budget for Kingman, Arizona, the old 1882 railroad town that's had 1,000 rebirths. Now it's time to jump in the car, roll through downtown, make my way back to Andy Devine Avenue, looking at all the beautiful scenery and lots of stuff we filmed before, and make my way out of town onto old Route 66. So goodbye, Kingman, Arizona. hello open road, and not too far away, Gigantic Headicus. We've already had a major gear shift here between downtown Kingman, Arizona and the Antares Point Ranchero Cozy Corner RV Park and Gigantic Headicus out here. Dude, things have been growing out here. They have been propagating old cars. Look at this. Really, seriously, look at this. Look at all the expansion in terms of old automobiles to look at. It's funny because when I think of classic cars, I think of this, you know, maybe something from the 1960s, 50s, and earlier. Not so much cars from the later 60s, 70s, 80s, but to somebody young, man. Gotta figure, when I was a kid looking at these old cars, they were only like, I don't know, 30 years old. Some cars from the 90s are even older to the kids of today. I love all the new statuary out here. Because of course this place is run by an artist. We've done a deep dive on Giganticus Headicus before, but I can't just drive on by without stopping and looking at Squidward's house, especially when there's so many new cars to check out in front of this place. Look at that old telephone booth right in front of the place too. That's another thing that wouldn't even have been considered old when I was a kid. We still used these things, but I guess to a kid growing up today, someone who's 10 or 12 years old now in 2026 would be like, look at this ancient relic. Isn't that what Superman changed his clothes in? All right. Speaking of gear change, just a little bit more open road to one of my favorite places and one of the most iconic places on all of Route 66. Talk about a gear change. Welcome to the Hackberry General Store. Beautiful, dude. Iconic, scenic, one of the most photographed places on Route 66. Any good Route 66 calendar worth its salt will have a photo of the Hackberry General Store. Check out the muscle car right there too. Definitely a beautiful sight, as I just mentioned when we sat inside the Keaton screen-used Batman Returns Batmobile. My dad had a 1970 Boss 302 Mustang when I was a little kid, so I've always loved that sort of late 60s, early 70s muscle car era. There, this is so beautiful and so gorgeous out here. It's funny how sometimes the highway's super busy, you get a lot of noise out here, and then other times you come out to Hackberry and the only sound is the squeaking of the sign in the wind. It's a sign that's getting pretty darn faded. I would hope somebody would restore it, but maybe they're leaving it the way it is because it was hand-painted by Bob Waldmeyer, very famous Route 66 artist during his tenure as owner of the Hackberry General Store. He came from the family that invented the corn dog, or more specifically, the cozy dog up on Route 66 in Springfield, Illinois, and then became kind of a wandering, itinerant Route 66 artist and major hippie. You wouldn't think the crown prince of a corn dog-based empire would become a total greasy, crusty hippie, but Bob did. But also became a major ambassador for preserving the quiet places on Route 66 like this. I always come out and look at Hackberry and they've got this stage up here that says Music Hall. They have so many old cars just stacked up all over the property, but I've never seen anything go down in the kilns back there or the music hall back here. Not as long as I've been visiting. Would be one heck of a place to have a party though. Hey, there's some automobiles missing from inside of here, but look at the old garage. How cool is that? Hackberry is actually just down there across the railroad tracks. It's an old mining town, although these days it'd be more accurate to say it's one of those towns people move to get away from it all. And look at this, the Hackberry General Store. It's got a little meditation garden. The General Store obviously mostly served highway travelers. Most of the old miners actually lived way down there across the tracks. I love this meditation garden here because they've opened up more of the backyard than I've seen open in a long time. And you can now walk up to some of the old tourist cabins. That is the way most early Route 66 travelers would find a roof and a bed for the night. If they didn't sleep in their car or camp out in a tent, they'd be housed in an old tourist cabin. A lot of times they were actual miners' cabins dragged out to serve as tourist cabins, or just quickly slapped together with lumber brought in through the railroads. Oh, and look at that. How amazing is it that the shelves are still there? You can see where the old sink was. There's even just a little bit of window curtain in here. Wow. These things have seen better days. It'd be cool to see them get fixed up at some point. I've never even been back this far on the property. They've really cleaned this place up. Look at that old house back there. It's just one of those incredible, peaceful places. You can pull over, wander around, look at all the art The old animal bones, the cactuses, the pinwheels. Just get a sense of what it's like to just be out here, living on the side of the old road, serving travelers coming by, a very romantic life. Dude, I would love to own a place like this. Have all the world come to me instead of me going to the world. You know, maybe create some roadside attractionness, maybe make things a little wackier. That's the dream, man, that is the dream. Of course, I am a city boy, so I don't know, maybe I'd move out here and go stir crazy. You never can tell until you do it. I'm just saying now, if I won the lottery, there'd be signs, because there would definitely be a roadside attraction, a Randomland roadside attraction of some kind on Route 66. Wait a minute, Owlie? Is that you? I love how Hackberry's got all the stickers on it, all the modern stuff, but it's also just preserved some sense of old rusticness, you know? Rustic charm. Gorgeous out here today. Absolutely beautiful. A little warm, but I mean, it's the desert. And after our last end-to-end Route 66 trip my son and I were on, where we were in a literal record-breaking heat dome heat wave all up and down Route 66, back and forth, I can hardly complain about a nice breezy 96-degree day out here. All right, Hackberry's good, great, wonderful. We've been inside many times. We've talked about the history many times, but there are some other stops on this old section of Route 66 that runs all the way from Kingman to Seligman, Arizona before you meet back up with the interstate. This is the part the Pixar movie Cars was based off of. Like when you see the little map of Radiator Springs and how it was cut off by the interstate, that is totally this section of road. There are many more stops to make alongside of it and some progress that's been made, or so I hear, along the path. Let's hit the road again. Speaking of progress, just around the corner from Hackberry General Store, well, relatively speaking, is this little desert miracle just on the edge of Valentine, Arizona. This little 76 station has sort of been restored. I always see the sign out here for great food and ice cold beer. There's usually a couple of old trucks for sale, but I've never actually seen this place open to the public. However, that might be my fault, because I'm always coming through on an off-season weekday like this at the end of March, instead of big July weekends, you know, when everybody's out on Route 66. Oh, wait a minute, you know what? I was mixing up that last place that I've never seen open with Valentine Station proper, which is just up ahead, just a little ways. Once again, closed today, seemingly. There we go. I was thinking, like, what happened to like the little porte cochere? They're basically within spitting distance of each other. I love this section of road. It's just such a fun drive, particularly when there's not too much traffic. That's exactly why I come in the off season. It's because I like having the road as much to myself as possible. I got really lucky today, though, here at Valentine Station, because the owner, Ruben, was rooting around in the back and came out and opened the fence for me. Ruben did exactly in 2006 what I was just talking about. He moved out here to acquire a little bit of land, a little bit of peace from Ventura, from Southern California, and has slowly been building up the Valentine Station. Originally, he was going to run it as a shop, which is why it's all sort of fixed up. But again, especially this part of Route 66 can be very seasonal in terms of traffic or trying to kind of keep anything open. So instead, Ruben started a YouTube channel. He had a big viral video called I Live in a Gas Station, something like that. So you can actually look up Valentine Station on YouTube and you can see not only work on Valentine Station itself, but get to know Ruben and also see some of his mental health awareness art projects. I mean, much like me, I just lost a friend recently, an unexpected but natural causes death. Ruben lost a friend to mental health issues. I've definitely lost some myself in the past, so I feel very sympathetic to the cause of just raising awareness. So he's got some art projects out here. Look at this, Operation Nori, Metal Fab for mental health. I almost read that wrong. And then look at this, tiny rigs, big plans, future classics, rolling soon, watch to build at Valentine Station. So Ruben went back there to help take care of his mom, but he's been out here restoring this place, and it's amazing because even though it's not often open to the public, I mean, unless you get in touch with them for some private special tour or happen to get the fence unlocked for you when you roll up like I just did, it's not generally open to the public, but you can watch all those YouTube videos or stop outside and take a look-see. It's just absolutely gorgeous what he's done out here. Just the little flags, the 27-cent gas sign, the old Chevy gas pumps. I mean, it's really a labor of love. And then when you find out, like, no, it's not open to the public, we're not selling souvenirs or anything like that, you realize, like, this is purely a passion project. This is exactly the kind of person who's just my hero. Keeping the flame lit, keeping Route 66 alive, one building at a time. Oh, and then he's working on a project, the world's smallest Winnebago. The Mini-Bago is being built out here at Valentine Station. Ruben just gave me a little bit of a tour. This is one of the earliest filling stations in the area, and it's not a big area. It's population 32 these days. It was built way back in the day. And he showed me back on the property towards the Mini-Bago. Not only do you have the old original filling station, which by the way was originally called the Great Western, he's still got the sign out here, but this building right here was a couple of little hotel rooms for tourists, and then you had the little brick building right there was the restrooms with showers in them, which would have been a big deal traveling by road back in the day. I can't remember if he said the station was built in 1945, but apparently you see these little tiers right here. Back in that era, that was a little motor course so you could pull your car up, and those are little camping spots that the Mini-Bago is sitting inside of one of them. And you're right up here against the creek, against the railroad tracks. There are a couple other tourist ranches in the area that are private property now that we can't get to, but are on my bucket list. This is amazing. I've never been out here on the behind the fence of the Valentine Station. So thank you, Ruben, for letting us wander around his private kingdom. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, look at that. The old original hotel rooms. Imagine coming out here, sitting in your little chair, just watching the few cars putting by on the highway and then getting a nice hot shower right here in this little brick building. Then look at this. Right behind the old restrooms, a couple of donkeys. Hi there, guys. Look at this. No rattlesnakes back here, is there? Hi, how are you? You want a little scratch? Oh, that is so cute. Look at these guys. This one's a little shy. Dude, this is so cool. What a special, amazing place. Dude, Ruben, I don't know if he knows this or not. He is living the dream out here, the exact dream I was just talking about. Give me a couple of acres of land, an old gas station and a historic highway rolling by. Yes, it'd be a little difficult to get to the grocery store or the post office or the church or whatever, but hey, you'd basically be out in the great cathedral of nature. Still doesn't solve the grocery problem. Yeah, but this is amazing. I love this. I love that I ran into Ruben out here today because we've never met in person before. This was just an amazing coincidence being able to stop out here and check out Valentine Station up close and personal. And I love getting the backstory, the history on the buildings on the property. And he does live on the property. And there are cameras, so don't you try anything funny out here, you Route 66 travelers. But definitely come by and appreciate it. Watch it on YouTube at Valentine Station. I'm sure Ruben's got many a crazy story to tell. Ruben's setting something fancy up for me out here. Apparently, if you roll over this thing, it sets off the bell. So that must be how they did it in the old days. Someone pulls up. That's so cool. Yep. And you can hear it from the back.
Driveway signal bell.
That's so awesome. It's a good alarm system. All right, he set that up for me so that when I get in the car here, as I take my leave, I can roll over that and say farewell. All right, we're gonna drive over it real slowly, nice and gentle. Oh, that is so cool. By the way, in addition to everything else I just learned from Ruben, those donkeys' names are Honky and Donkey, which is perfect. All right, like I mentioned, there's some other tourist ranches and old tourist cabins hidden throughout these hills, but they're private property. There's also an animal sanctuary out here called Keepers of the Wild, which I've never visited, but people tell me is pretty amazing. The railroad tracks run along this old part of Route 66. It's just a relic. It's like taking a time machine. Time travel for sure back here on the back roads between Kingman and Seligman. And whenever people ask me, like, what should I do for my first Route 66 adventure? I go, don't try and do the whole thing all at once. If you only have a little bit of time, I would highly recommend the Oklahoma stretch of Route 66 or the Arizona, depending on where you live in the country. I mean, every state's little portion of Route 66 is amazing, but those two are really like taking a time machine in totally two different environments. So if you're interested in the desert, the kind of open road, I highly recommend, especially this piece of Arizona Route 66. You got the Grand Canyon out here, Kingman, which we just saw, Valentine, which by the way, as a historic Native American boarding school, a very strange and some would say dark chapter of American history. And also, if there was any place that's sort of a one-to-one for Radiator Springs and Pixar's cars, it would be this stretch of highway. And of course, Seligman at the end of our road today. Obviously, they took inspiration from the entire Route 66 and many other places off of it as well. Shout out to Jonas and all my other friends over at Pixar. They did an amazing thing making cars, especially that first movie, man. Probably did more for Route 66 than any other thing in the 21st century. That is for sure. Dude, Ruben just opened my eyes to a possibility I'd never thought of. Oh, by the way, here's Keepers of the Wild right here. Animal Sanctuary. I heard there's wolves and everything else back over here. Lions and tigers and monkeys. I've got to check that out sometime. Yeah, Ruben was like, hey man, if you ever want to do an event out here or a day thing or a meetup or something, I'm like, ooh, that could be interesting. Give me your thoughts on that over on Instagram. Look for the Valentine Station post. Anyway, cruising out of Valentine now. Oh, there goes the train. Some of those old ranch properties where people used to camp out on Route 66. I really want to get down in there, man. Ed's Camp too, over by Cool Springs. They're bucket list places for me, man. I haven't been to everything on Route 66, but I want to. And usually what happens is I'll cruise through a town or something, and then after the video goes up, people will tell me, oh, I wish you'd stayed at our motor court, or we restored this old gas station, or there was this cool thing we could have shown you that nobody else gets to see. Well, if you have anything like that on Route 66 for my upcoming trip, my email is right on my Instagram profile. There's a little link that says email. Click on that. Send me a message, let me know ahead of time. Maybe the next trip will be the trip of new friends. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, we're about to enter the Hualapai Indian Reservation, as it's officially known, in the little town of Peach Springs. I'd like to get an update on something I filmed before, a piece of history that was disappearing that's being brought back to life. Oh, well, look at this before we get there. It's these open stretches of road. This is what I love so much. A bunch of stretches on this route with prairie dogs all over and just hawks diving down. I've seen pronghorn out here, deer, elk. I mean, it's just beautiful. How cool was that? Running into Ruben back there and getting a little private tour. Maybe next time we can get him on camera more, talking and give us the full tour, you know? That was just like pure luck that we ran into each other right there. That was awesome. Now, Route 66 is at the age now, 100 years old, where we are losing historic buildings on the route every single day. Whether a piece at a time carried off by the wind or vandals, or whether whole buildings are torn down or lost to time. And so any restoration story or success story like that is a great victory. And up here in Peach Springs is a true victory story. Ah, yes, we've now entered the little town of Peach Springs, Arizona. I believe this is the capital of the Hualapai Indian Reservation. That's the Fish and Game Department right across the street from us. Once known as the Peach Springs Trading Post, which dates from 1929. There was an earlier building here that actually predated Route 66, but that's the upgraded version. Once Route 66 started bringing all those motorists here to Peach Springs. That building itself looks like it could undergo a little bit of restoration, and maybe it will soon, because since the last time we were in downtown Peach Springs, this historic building right here, the old Osterman Shell Station, was pretty much nothing but a shell and was totally falling apart. It looked like it was not long for this earth, but now look at the scale of that restoration right here. The Osterman Shell Station has been lovingly preserved. Not only does it have a fresh coat of paint, this little porte cochere, or whatever you call it, the awning, where the gas pumps would have been, has been all rebuilt and restored. It also has a brand new roof over the garage section over here. This was all built in 1931. When Route 66 was realigned to go down this street, John Osterman had originally built his service station in a different part of town. His brother bought it in 1925. But when Route 66 was realigned one block down and all the highway traffic started coming down this particular road, they moved the station down over here and built a brand new huge building to cater to motorists who needed a little repair on their vehicles, tire changes, oil changes, you name it, the works. But it's just incredible the amount of work they've done. They've actually turned this back into a building with a roof and 4 walls. You can see they still got a little work to do. They need a window from a glass over here. They need some new garage doors. Oh no, actually I take that back. These look like the original garage doors, just preserved. This part of Route 66, just like in the Pixar movie Cars, was absolutely devastated when they opened Interstate 40 because nobody was gonna drive 20 miles away to come get fuel over here at the Shell station anymore. But surprisingly, this stayed in business until 2007. Then literally the building was just falling down around the place and it was unoccupied. Every time I came through, I'm like, ah, man, what a bummer. This thing's going to rack and ruin. And although, yes, peeking through the windows, you can see there's still a lot of work to do on the interior. This is one of those incredible success stories, at least in terms of shoring up the building, where we get to keep a little piece of Route 66 history that was this close from being lost. I love this. Look at this up here. The Hualapai people would like to share these events to celebrate the Mother Road's centennial. So a lot of stuff coming up. Copper State 1000 Road Rally, April 13th. The Route 66 Fun Road Rally. Lots of road rallies, mostly road rallies. Hey, but look at this. In November, an ultra run marathon. In October, a Cycle Arizona 66 bicycle ride. They're also advertising their cars and coffee events on Saturdays. That's nice to see that. They're picking up on the whole Route 66 thing. I love that. By the way, not a lot of places to stop and get supplies, but the Hualapai Market is a good spot. Peach Springs, which obviously inspired the name Radiator Springs. What do you think? Also a great place to send a postcard from. And then look at this, look at their new little Veterans Memorial Park here, right next to the old Osterman Shell Station. Wow. See, now every nation, every group of Native Americans is totally unique and different, right? And so you see sometimes lots of protests and things on the news, and maybe the people of one reservation or one area will be protesting certain things, and you may get the idea that they don't exactly love America. But then in Arizona, in my experience, although very keenly aware of the darker side of US history, particularly as regards its indigenous peoples, I found that most of the people that I've met on reservations in Arizona are extremely patriotic, and so many of them are veterans. Including going, all the way back to World War I and World War II, especially the Navajo. I'm thinking of the Code Talkers, but also out here, the Hualapai people. I love that there's even a little Space Force plaque out here. I also love this, by the way, that's the symbol. I mean, straight out of Star Trek. Who doesn't love that? Pretty cool. Dedicated to the Hualapai men and women who served their country in times of war and peace. Okay, that explains Space Force, because I didn't think we had too many casualties of the Space Force yet. All gave some gave all. I really love that. I love that. I totally get why people that grew up in big cities, I mean, I grew up in a pretty populated area, are not all that patriotic. But let me tell you, the more that you actually travel through America, the more you stop in small towns and meet all different kinds of people with all different kinds of backgrounds, the more you realize this is like one of the most special places on the world. Being out here on the road today and running into so many people, it's just one of those things. Whenever I hear anybody talking smack, and everybody's got their opinion, I just think, you just don't know America the way that I know America. The more you travel, the more you see, particularly in small town America, they've held on to, whether that's Peach Springs here on the Hualapai Nation, or someplace in the Midwest, or down south, somewhere like Clarksdale, Mississippi, where I got to know a whole bunch of people doing some blues highway traveling. You just meet friendly people, people that would give you the shirt off their back. They stop and give you the time of day. They talk to you about their history, their old historic buildings. It's a much better story than we often think it is when we're surrounded by concrete and rude people bumping into you and people cutting you off in traffic and road raging you on the 91 freeway. That's why I think it's important for everybody at some point, if you can possibly ever manage it, take a 2-week road trip. Travel across America, make sure you stop in little coffee shops, make sure you say hello to people, because you'll be surprised how many will actually stop and talk to you for quite a long time. And I promise you, you will walk away with a whole different view, if you're a lifelong city dweller, of your country. And it's just amazing. That's why so many European visitors that travel down Route 66, and they are usually the bulk of the tourists, so many of them walk away with this impression that, man, America's awesome. I don't think you get that impression if you just fly over here for 2 weeks and go to Disney World or whatever. You gotta add some America in it. Where else are you gonna see a porta potty like this on the side of the road? Anyway, sorry for bubbling over with enthusiasm right there. I'm just stoked to be back on the old Mother Road, getting my kicks on Route 66. I've just realized this episode is long enough, and I never do this. Very, very rare, but I think I'm gonna have to start another video starting right now. So do me a couple of favors. If you'd like to see me make a big Route 66 trip this year or any year, you'd really like to support the show, keep us cruising across America, the best way is to join Patreon, where we're getting back to doing podcasts and other things. But that's essentially mainly just the tip jar if you'd like to see the show continue. But we also have the sick Randomland Kindred Spirit hats like the one I'm wearing back in stock. My book is back in stock. We got signed copies. And most importantly, especially in case there's any gap, we still have hot sauce, Randomland hot sauce, the best hot sauce in the world. Yes, I'm heavily biased, so take that for what it's worth. But I really, really do like this stuff. Randomland hot sauce in stock. We literally, I mean, it's made in a professional facility, but we literally have it made ourselves. It's not a label slap situation. Go back and watch the videos. I explained the whole story. It is a recipe I had created especially for me that is my favorite, absolute favorite flavor on the planet. We get them freight shipped to our house, and every single bottle gets shipped out of my house by my lovely wife or my son or myself. And we happen to have Randomland hot sauce in hand in stock right now. And before we run out and have to order a new batch and there's any kind of gap, if you want it right away, it's over there at randomland.com. You can find links to everything, including my Instagram that I mentioned. That's enough of a sales pitch from me. I always forget to say this stuff during the course of an episode, so I just throw it on at the end. For those of you who are hardcore enough to stick around to the very end, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you sharing this with a friend that you think would like it. I hope to meet some of you out there on the Mother Road this year, the centennial year of Route 66. And if not then, I'll see you all in Randomland. We've done our duty for today. Go home and sleep well. I'll see you in the next episode, which will start just down the highway, a couple more miles. Elvis is in the building. I've got to ride like the wind. But dude, come on. How good is all this free fun out here for the price of a $2.37 cup of coffee?